Hello everybody, today is day 215 and we're reading from 2 Chronicles chapter 32 and 33. Now, we're revisiting the invasion by the king of Assyria, but there's greater detail that is listed in today's reading, and we just want to cover some of that. Well, the king enters Judah and he's thinking to win over to himself the people, to take captive the people of the land. Hezekiah saw that he purposed to make war against them. And Hezekiah meets with his leaders and he strengthens himself. He built up walls, he raised up the towers, he made weapons and shields in abundance, the Bible tells us, and he did everything he could do in their own power. That is, he did more than just pray, and I don't mean to diminish that. I'm just simply saying that sometimes we have the impression that we ought to just pray and we leave in God's hands, but the issue here is he combined the two elements of both the divine intervention and personal partnering with God. And so they strengthened themselves, doing everything within their power to make ready and to prepare for the battle. Now, he met with the military captains and placing them over the people, assigning them jurisdictions and responsibilities. And this word that you find in this reading is that he encouraged them. That is, he began to speak into their lives, and he said this to them: be strong and be courageous. This reminds me of the very words that we read of in Ephesians chapter 6, 10 and 11. In the midst of conflict from the enemy of our own lives, the enemy of darkness, we are told to be strong and courageous in the Lord and to put on the full armor of God and make ready for battle, but to recognize that we have resources, divine resources that will strengthen us. He declares that to them a declaration. It's an affirmation as he's encouraging them, and he makes this reference. He says there are more with us than with them. Now, I don't think there's any evidence that he had in the natural to verify that, but I believe King Hezekiah is speaking a word of faith as he makes this declaration. But the king of Assyria sent messengers to discourage and to try everything to try to defeat the power that they had, or the sense of resolve that they had. And he asked them the question, what do you trust? He's asking the people of Judah, what do you trust? What God can deliver you out of my hand? That's what this king of Assyria is asking. And many times the enemy's doing that. There's what pastor can help you, or what spiritual leader is going to be there for you, or how is the word of God going to help you? Or is Jesus, is he really going to be there for you? He cries out and says, don't let Hezekiah deceive you. These voices of doubt and defeat that were being raised, do not believe Hezekiah, was the word that the messengers were declaring. Your God is not able. And the king of Assyria spoke against this God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he belittled the God. He literally assaulted God himself, not realizing who he was coming up against. Then he even cried out in a unified voice and a loud voice to wear them down. They brought their voices together to frighten them and to trouble them. And many times the voices that we hear around us in the culture, in the world, and even the voices of the enemy. But the fact is, in verse 20, it says, now because the king and Isaiah prayed and cried out to heaven, there's that key word in that verse 20, then the Lord sent an angel. I like the fact that he didn't have to send a host of angels. He sent an angel. And this is what we find recorded in the book of Revelation, that even Satan, when he's being bound and cast in a lake of fire, that it's going to be one angel that will go and wrap that chain that's been dipped in the blood. And there is no power that the enemy has, that God himself has to actually go. He can just assign one angel to do it. And God intervened and cut down every mighty leader and captain. He defeated through this assignment from heaven. The Lord saved and guided on every side. And then in conclusion, we find here that Manasseh, we see a little bit in here that wasn't recorded in yesterday's reading, that Manasseh, who was very wicked and very evil and had done everything contrary to what his father had done, that as wicked as he was, when he's afflicted, when there's problems and troubles all around him caving in on his life, that he returns to the God of his father. So even though he had abandoned his God's influence and leadership and example, in the midst of trouble, when everything is falling apart, he turns to the God of his father, Hezekiah, and he recognized all the gods that he had served failed him. He humbled himself, he prayed, he repented, he reinstated what his father had done, and as a result, the grace, the mercy, and the blessing of God and favor was upon him. Today's reading is an encouragement of what happens when we look to God and we refuse to listen to the whining voices of the enemies that are all around us.